On this week's episode, does Pacific Uprising do well enough to continue the series? Has the Far Cry iterations played itself out? And is it time again to get back into sports cars? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the PCC multi. Oh, the wrong show, man. I'm gonna do this all over again, man. My vibe is bad on this. Hold on. On this week's episode, does Pacific Up? See, my vibe is all off. The jam is just not there. Hold on. On this week's episode, does Pacific Rim Uprising do well enough to continue the series? Has the Far Cry iterations played itself out? And is it time again to get back into sports cards? All this and more as we reach our next stop, the pop culture cosmos. Much better. Got my jive back. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Gerald from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We want to thank you so much for tuning in to us and hanging out with us here for a little bit. Well, it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He is the man, the myth, the legend behind Humanica Media. You got to check out all the great things going on today at humanicamedia.com. Also, as well, their YouTube and Apple Podcasts, and also their Podbean channels as well. It's Josh Peterson. What's going on, my friend?
Hey. Just working on some Pop Culture Cosmos stuff. Top secret. It's pop secret. And you'll know about it soon, but it involves a certain website that we've been working on. So, stay tuned.
And I got to give a lot of credit to Josh right here. He has done a tremendous amount on the site. I'm going to give you pride. You'll be able to check it out and be able to check all the good things I'm working on. But for now, we've got a lot of great stuff going on our regular site, the popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. But things are looking good as far as the change in the future that are and more tightly focused our pop as well. But it's going to be a great show that we have for you today. We've got Rob McCallum standing by in the Cosmic Crossfire. He's going to be talking with me about the Chinese box office, but also as well, him and I are going to have a discussion on the movie theater experience and what is fair and maybe what's not so fair as far as what people should be expecting the next time they head into their local theater. Plus, also as well, we've got Vince Attulo from That Sports Card Show. He is going to be stopping by, talking to me as well later in the program about all the good things about sports card trading and if it is a great time to get back into sports cards. I know a lot of us out there, like myself, were once into sports card trading and all that and buying the baseball and football and basketball cards when they first started really getting into fruition. But he's also got my collection at around the time I was collecting, but he's also got some great words as well and great advice for anybody that wants to get back into sports card trading or those who want to dip into it for the first time. So he's coming on later in the program as well. But Josh, this weekend at the box office here domestically and worldwide, there was an uprising because Pacific Rim Uprising stormed the box office. It took first place here domestically and also around the world with $150 million worldwide, almost $30 million here in the U.S. Not quite exactly what the first one did, but worldwide may make up for the fact that if it doesn't perform quite as well here and quite as well here as it does in as far as worldwide is concerned. So I ask you, Josh, with that being said, as far as the movie performing, then here in the U.S., it looks like I said about 150, which is about what the production budget was, and when all comes down to it, it probably will have to make again around 400 million worldwide to break even and actually get into the black. So I ask you, Josh, Do you think this is a good sign for the series if it heads into another? Do you think there's a trilogy of Pacific Rim films, or do you think they're just going to cut their losses and maybe just, hey, say, I know that the money's great as far as worldwide, but unfortunately, the domestic returns are reason enough to say, hey, maybe we should shy away from a third Pacific Rim film?
Well, we kind of had this conversation a while back when we were talking about the World of Warcraft film. Do a lot of like these science fiction films, are they even really made for domestic box office numbers anymore? If it seems like if they know they can do well in a foreign market, that it's still, it's worth the money for them. Like World of Warcraft made for a Chinese audience, and I know like Godzilla, it did okay here, but like it got a lot of numbers in the domestic box office. So I think when it comes to movies like that, especially like the big monster movies, monster robot movies, like those do appeal to foreign viewers. And now that there's more more movies opening up, and we have there's I don't know if it's like contracts with movie theaters or whatever over there, but there's more opportunity than just domestic, because I mean, I mean this in the best way possible, but Americans, like, we have become, especially over the past 5 years, we've become really bad film snobs. So it makes sense that they would be aiming more to profit in a domestic market rather than, not domestic, but in a foreign market rather than a domestic market.
Well, I will say this: Black Panther here in the United States again had a great weekend, placing number two, not getting number one for the first time ever, but it has garnered over $600 million here domestically, which is the highest total for any movie in any one country this year. But the number 2 and 3 movies are actually Chinese based. And those movies, I tell you what, those movies dictate, and those movies actually tell me that there are audiences out there that want to go see movies. Yes, obviously they prefer something of their that they can closely relate to than maybe domestic movies here that were made in the U.S. or even Europe or overseas or whatnot. But the Chinese marketplace does embrace certain films, the Transformers series, obviously, like you said, the Warcraft movie, the first Pacific Rim film, all did well in the Chinese marketplace. So there is room for a lot of great numbers in the Chinese box office. Plus, also worldwide, the Pacific Rim Uprising in South America, in Europe, in Australia, that movie seems to resonate better over there sometimes than actually movies that might do well here domestically. You and I both seen it in the past with Marvel films, Star Wars films, where it doesn't really resonate in China 100%. Black Panther is, and is about right around $100 million in China, which makes it the number 2 market, but that is substantially lower than the $600 million that it has earned in the United States. So kind of a differential there, but it is the number 2 market worldwide. And the common perception is, now we've actually discussed this before, where we think that the Chinese marketplace will eventually be the number 1 marketplace in the world, not before too long.
Yeah, because they're their audiences go to be entertained. Like they don't have viewers going in with agendas or anything like that. And like it's just the critic culture here is ruining it's ruining box office numbers. It's ruining whatever potential a film has to make money here. Our critic culture is ruining that. Whereas, you go to like a domestic, not domestic, I don't know why I keep saying that. Foreign like foreign movie theaters, they go to be entertained. They just want to see, what the latest American product. Hold on, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, no, they're more open to movies over there. They like watching them. They like seeing them. Like China's getting Star Wars they just got Star Wars for the first time, a few years ago, I want to say. And they go and they watch these movies, and they're not like, they don't have critics, they don't have Rotten Tomatoes telling them to buy or not to buy, or to go or not to go see something. So that's working to their advantage. Sorry, my dog, dude. Sorry, man. Where was I?
Oh, as far as the Chinese box office, about how they don't have, I guess, in your opinion, the predetermining factors, which I have a tendency to agree with you as far as, but we have more access to those critical junctions, those critical outlets that I don't know, can say kill or raise a movie, but they certainly can do a lot of damage as far as it's concerned, or actually help it a lot as well.
Yeah, no, and it's I don't know, man. Like I just it makes sense that a movie like that would profit better overseas, because we Blade Runner was a fantastic science fiction movie, but unfortunately it didn't do that well. And we now, as we go on, unless it has like Sandra Bullock or George Clooney in it, we're seeing less and less science fiction films profit over here.
That's correct. If it doesn't have the Star Wars label attached to it, you never know what you're going to get with that. Obviously, we've seen films over the past year, Valerian, that didn't do so well here domestically, and there's been quite a few others that didn't do as well either. Passengers, I mean, that did make $400 million worldwide, but just barely eked over $100 million here. And like you said, it's a lot about the world is evolving and changing as far as their tastes in movies, and the fact that they want to go see movies, and with more and more theaters opening up worldwide, it's making more and more sense that movies cater to not just a domestic but a worldwide audience. Rob and I are going to discuss a little bit more about that later in the program. So I ask you this, I'll leave off the discussion first off with Pacific Rim Uprising with this. Do you think that Pacific Rim Uprising is going to perform well enough at the box office to justify a third movie in the Pacific Rim series and create a trilogy? As far as critical numbers aside, because the first one, it wasn't exactly a stellar movie to begin with. It was fun, pulpy, popcorn flick. And the second one seems to be something similar in that nature. But do you think that's enough to necessitate a third film in the Pacific Rim series?
If they profit off of it enough, and there's enough positive feedback, not from critics but from fans, yeah, they're gonna make another one. They'll keep making them. I would, it would be cool to see them. I don't know how they would do it, but tie into Universal's not monster, Legendary's big giant monster Kong Godzilla universe. It'd be cool to see that tie-in happen. I don't know how they would do it. It's kind of different tones for the films, but if it eventually got to that point, that would be cool. But yeah, no, I mean, as long as people are going to see it, my nephew went and saw it and he loved it, and I guess like little kids are digging it. So and that's cool. We need a revitalization of sci-fi flicks here. So hey, if they can help make that happen, more power to them.
It's just hard because it wasn't like the Transformers series, which would make 700, 800, $1 billion, or the Star Wars series. It wasn't a clear cut and dry profit maker on the first one. And this one looks to be very similar in its performance. So it's going to be some nervous time at Legendary and also as well Universal if they want to go ahead and say yes to and greenlight a third one. So we'll have to wait and see. In fact, for a time, you and I were talking about the fact that we didn't think another Pacific Rim would come around.
Yeah. And also, as long as you have a filmmaker with the reputation of Guillermo del Toro making something like that, like if he were to come back for the third one, they would do it regardless. Like it's just, especially after the momentum he's built through Shape of Water. It depends on who's attached to the project, and I think a trilogy could work if they were to go back and explore the what happened to what's his name from Sons of Anarchy. Sorry,
Charlie Hunnam.
Charlie Hunnam. If they want to go back and
your favorite actor from,
yeah, I don't know why I can never remember his name. yeah, if they go back and explore his arc and they had Guillermo del Toro back, they would greenlight a third movie in a second. I guarantee you. So, I'd like to see more movies like this. I don't know if I'll personally go watch them, but I think it helps rebuild a genre of film that we have been seriously lacking.
Well, let's hope so indeed, because yeah, it's not the greatest films in the world, but the Pacific Rim series does entertain. It's pulpy entertainment, popcorn flick and all. I plan to see it at some point. I know Josh does as well, so let's hope for good things, and let's hope that Pacific Rim Uprising does well enough to necessitate a third movie and a trilogy for the Pacific Rim series. What are your thoughts on Pacific Rim Uprising? Do you like it? Did you like it? Did you go and see it at first weekend at the box office? Or is it something that you're probably willing to avoid or catch on video that it doesn't really, draw you in right away? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, we've got a great show we've got a great show coming up for you. We've got, again, Rob McCallum, Vince Attulo. Both of those guys are coming up in the broadcast today. Plus, Josh and I are going to be talking a lot about Far Cry 5 that's coming out this week. And also as well, Guardians of the Galaxy and its impact within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's coming also later in the program as well. But first, it's a good friend of ours. It's Elijah Harrison. His alter ego is DJ Plasma Z, and this is Shadows of Chernobyl. Shadows of Chernobyl. And this is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos show. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. Thanks so much for sticking around. We truly appreciate it. If for some reason you can't catch our show via the way you're doing now, we've got a bevy of ways you can catch our show each and every week. First off, we're on online radio. Our show's being streamed on online radio 7 days a week on these great stations. Just got to check out our listings today on the Facebook page for Pop Culture Cosmos. Our good friends at Airwave Radio in the UK, Good Talk Radio, Croc Radio out of Canada, IPMNation.com on their IPM Nation 1 channel, Grey Cloud Radio, Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting, and of course, we are the number 1 and 2 shows on Monday and Friday nights with the Podcast Radio Network. Josh right here has got a great thing going on with the Podcast Radio Network as well with his Humanica Media show on Tuesday nights. I'll test him here in a sec to see if he remembers the time. But if you need to download our show, no problem as well. You can just simply subscribe and download our podcast today anytime you want. Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podbean, the Gunny Geek Network, ESO Network, the Tangibound Network, the Weeby Geek Network, Google Play. And while I was on Podchaser, they were so kind enough to tell me some networks I didn't even know we were on, like Radio Public, Castro, there's Player.fm, and over 20 more podcast networks which you can download our show. And if you decide to do so, we're going to throw in some extra bonus material just for listening. Josh, you've got a great thing, like I said, with Humanica Media. So what's coming up this week with your great thing known as Humanica Media?
7 o'clock. Am I right? This is close.
You got it. Eastern time. That's right. Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. It's Attack of the Humanicans on the Podcast Radio Network.
Eastern time, okay, guys? Not Easter time. So we won't be playing an episode on Easter Sunday. It's Eastern, okay?
Well, the Pop Culture Cosmos show and the PCC Multiverse will be played back-to-back on Good Talk Radio and Airwave Radio in the UK.
Exactly. See what I did? Okay, anyways, so we have a new episode of What About This coming at you next week, but you can check out the last episode, which is up now. New Super BS Games cast is going to be hitting the airwaves on Thursday. New Topic Eclipse will be going up tonight at some point. So definitely tune into that. And I'm sure the guys from the Guardians of the Geek podcast are working on something that I don't know. They mentioned something, so they're going to be doing something comic book related. So it might not be a GOTG, but I'm sure there's something. We'll see though. All right, cool. That's it.
We'll see indeed. That is humanitymedia.com for the latest information. But also, as well, you check out our home site, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. We've still got a lot of great material. A lot of stuff from our good friends at the TV Ratings Guide is there that you can find there. Plus, also, as well, I just dropped an article on Daniel Bryan's return to the WWE because I have some concerns, and I share them in that analysis. Plus, also as well,
Good article. I actually read it.
what you did?
I liked it, man. It was good.
Well, it's just, I'm worried. I know a lot of people are worried, but I can tell firsthand I was worried. And I said it last week when I was on the show here talking to Billy Donnelly. It's just something I'm concerned about his long-term health. But,
The legitimate concern that's a difficult injury to to deal with, especially it's a serious thing too. I mean, I imagine he's doing it at his own risk, but yeah, you don't know, man. You don't know how the law's going to work if something ends up happening to him.
And every neurological expert says he's okay, but we're still at an infancy stage as far as understanding the human brain. I mean, CTE, for instance, that you can only really do investigative work and really track CTE when somebody has already been deceased. So we're still trying to get that as far as tracking and understanding CTE in a living person. I mean, when it comes to neurological injuries, we're still at a very, very infancy stage, and I'm just worried, man. Just for him, but maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I'm overreacting, and if something happens, I don't want to be the guy also as well that says I told you so, because that's not the intent of what I wrote in the article. But hey, check it out, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. You'll also find a reason why to binge, as I put another article, to binge The Alienist, which will have its finale as you're, pretty much as you're listening to the show. It's already gone up in the air, and you need to go binge the whole series. It's been great, and you need to find out why it's such a great series. But I know Josh you've got some articles going on there that I've read as well, but don't you?
Yeah, just another piece of my little mental health series I'm doing is going up here soon. And there is a Flint Hook review going up by Brian Wegner tomorrow, so you can also catch that coming at you.
That's awesome indeed, and that's popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. So Josh, Far Cry 5 hits video game consoles and the PC this week. It has been what?
And I'm so excited to play that.
I can tell already. You're all excited to play that, and it's been a while. I mean, it's been a good series. It's far exceeded. Sorry for the pun there. It's far exceeded my expectations on the series as far as going this far. If you include Far Cry Primal, Far Cry Blood Dragon, all the extras that they've put in there as well. So I ask you, Josh, Far Cry 5, it's got some good buzz around it. Not great, but really solid buzz as far as having a game that many people consider a AAA game in the industry that's coming out this early here in March. I'm not so sold on it. I think maybe Far Cry series may be something that maybe should be put to rest after this one for a little while, just because of the fact that I think that, similar to Assassin's Creed, maybe it's time to just let these titles lie for a little bit and work on other stuff before you bring them back every year, 2 to 3 years, what have you. What are your thoughts on Far Cry 5? You said you're excited to play it, but is there some trepidation at all with maybe the Far Cry series after so many iterations?
Yeah, they've kind of been all over the spectrum as far as like storytelling and styles and gameplay and stuff like that. I don't want to say that there's not a lot of places that they still can go, because I don't really think that there is, without just becoming monotonous. But um, this, we talked about this. I think it was last week, where you were talking about how the millennial thing going on here, the little bloggers catching the racist guys church or whatever. The story for Far Cry 5 is, it's kind of a cash grab type thing, a little like if Huffington Post made a video game or something.
Or something like that. Like it's touching on a lot of current issues in a roundabout way.
Yeah, and you go forward, say, we go 2 or 3 years down the line from now, and it honestly doesn't look like the trending issues are going to be any different then. So, yeah, there's not really going to be a lot that they can do, and maybe they should take a rest, because they've had a good run, and I know Primal wasn't as well received as the others, but um yeah, maybe it's time for them to focus on other projects. Assassin's Creed, it worked for them, so maybe taking some time off would kind of reinvigorate the franchise and get people excited about it. And like, I've always admired them for where, the places that they're willing to go. Like Blood Dragon was completely out of left field, but it was really cool. So
Well, hold on. I will say this: wouldn't you know the timing of that? The creator of the Blood Dragon game, the DLC, the standalone DLC, whatever you want to call it, actually just left Ubisoft last week.
Oh, so we won't be getting a Blood Dragon version of racist people. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm gonna play it, and like I'm not gonna be able to make a final decision on this until after I get my hands on it. But yeah, no, I see where you're coming from, and I see where the concern is coming from, and maybe they will take a couple weeks. I honestly don't, like, as far as storytelling goes, I don't see anywhere else they can really go currently. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm still waiting for Ubisoft to announce that their games all take place in shared universes. So I have a feeling that's gonna. I know Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed does, but they're gonna get desperate to keep a franchise alive one day, and they're just gonna say, you know what? There's assassins in Far Cry now. This is all part of the Templar attempts to take over the world. They're manipulating people, so they might do something like that too. Who knows?
They'll have a division of individuals that are doing it for honor. In fact, they'll call themselves the Crew. How about that for puns right there for you?
That's good. It's just a little fractured butthole.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's just like you said, I think they should lay off the Far Cry series after this one for a little while. Just finish it out, provide some nice DLC, provide some good companion stuff for it, and then just give it a rest for about 3, 4, maybe 5 years, and just bring it back. It'll be fresh indeed. It'll be fresh back to gamers, and it'll probably be a wise move, in my opinion, to do that, because they now have a lot more resources and a lot more titles that they can go to. Plus, they're not afraid to bring out new stuff like For Honor, The Division, Rainbow Six Siege. 2 years after it's been released, has gotten even stronger and stronger as far as popularity is concerned, and is now currently one of the best-selling games out on the market for something that was pretty good, did okay, but with the DLC that's been added and all the operators and the way it's been perceived, and the fact that it's been now such a great part of the streaming and esports coming, experience, that it has now become a mainstay of Ubisoft as far as that's concerned. Now, you also have, like I said, you have For Honor, you have The Division with The Division 2 announced already. You've got other stuff on the plate that you can go ahead and work with. So it's about time that maybe you just ease off the Far Cry series for a while before it becomes too redundant. And then same thing with Assassin's Creed. You gave that some time off. You're doing really well here, and you're not going to bring out an Assassin's Creed for a spell, maybe 2019 at the earliest. So you're going to provide DLC for this current iteration of Assassin's Creed. Just give some of these games some space, and let them breathe a little bit before you go back in full board with another game in the iteration. Just seems like it's a no-brainer to me, because Far Cry, when Far Cry 5 was announced, I was not excited for you. I'm going to be honest with you. I played through some of the Far Cry iterations. They've been pretty good for me. Far Cry Primal was a letdown, I think, in a lot of people's eyes, but Far Cry 5, was like, all right. And I like, the synopsis, like, it's kind of interesting. But it's, is this a game to have, even though it should be a AAA title, because some of the titles before it have performed like AAA titles? It should be, but I'm not sure entirely that people still think that the Far Cry series is a top-notch series.
Yeah, no, I agree. I know that they took crafting out of this one, so it's we'll see like what type of mechanics they put in place of that. I know Primal involved a lot of crafting, and that was kind of one of the downfalls about the game. But yeah, no, I've I've never been too into Far Cry. Like, I'm excited to play this one, but I'm not like excited that it exists. I'm excited to play it because it's like it marks the kind of the beginning of like big game releases for the year. So I'm enjoying the idea of having something to play, something to stream. But I've never been a huge Far Cry fan. I'm excited to play this, but that's about as far as my enthusiasm's going.
Exactly. And I think a lot of other people are like you, that hey, it's nice it's coming out, but it's no longer that I gotta have, like Far Cry 4 was, Far Cry 3. I think that was really for me the high point of the series. Maybe even Far Cry 2, but those Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4 actually hit, as far as right out there with their releases. They came out during the height of, as far as popularity, and also the height of when games, it really marketed itself to be a top-notch game. And I'm not saying that Far Cry 5 isn't. It's just that I don't see the kind of wave of enthusiasm behind it that's going to make it and keep it a top-notch game for the entire year. But hopefully I'm proven wrong, and Far Cry 5 will be something that's outstanding and be one of the 10 best games of the year. And let's hope that's the case, because if not, then maybe it's time for Ubisoft to reevaluate the Far Cry series and maybe put it to rest for a little while, and then reboot it again sometime down the road. What are your thoughts on the Far Cry series? Share us your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Are you interested in Far Cry 5? Do you plan to play it, or is it something that you're tired of as far as the Far Cry series as a whole? Share us your thoughts and let us know. We'd love to hear back from you on the Far Cry series or anything that we're talking about here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. When we return, we've got Vince Artullo from That Sports Card Show. He's going to be stopping by talking about sports cards and if it is a good time to get back into them, because certainly I had that question. I know a lot of other people do too, and he answers it for us and a whole lot more when we come back. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back to close out the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford, and we want to thank you so much for sticking around with us. And we also want to thank Vince Artullo from That Sports Card Show for hanging out with us. I know he's also going to be sticking around with us for the Friday show and in talking more about great trading cards and about that industry. So cannot wait to hear from him then as well. Plus also as well, my good friend Rob McCallum. And you got to pick up, if you're a fan of heavy metal or documentaries, Kitty Origins and Evolutions is coming out on the 30th. You still have time to pre-order it today, but Kitty's Origins and Evolutions, that documentary is coming out on the 30th, and you want to go ahead to robmccallumfilms.com. You can get all the information there. Thank you, Rob, so much as always for stopping by on the Cosmic Crossfire. Before we head on out, Josh, we got to talk we're going to head back into our countdown of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we count down the movies in the universe up to, of course, the Avengers Infinity War coming out on the 27th of April. So I ask you, Josh, we're now up to Guardians of the Galaxy, one of our favorite movies in the series, and a movie that was leaving a lot of people not sure what was going to go on because the series as a whole in the comic books is not that well known. It wasn't well known by me when it first came out as a movie, and I was just enjoying it because I thought this might be a good sci-fi flick and something Marvel hadn't really approached at any point in time earlier.
Yeah, those kind of I see why they did it. They're probably trying to open up the cosmic side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe without using, uh, without having entered negotiations with Fox for because it would have made sense to do a Silver Surfer type thing originally, but with Guardians of the Galaxy, they had more access to a wider variety of characters there, and it makes sense that they would have it. It was weird because Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of like a warm up for Avengers, not Avengers, but for the ensemble flicks because they already had Avengers under their belt, and it was cool to see all these characters come together. But no, I think it's cool. Is a nice intro to they tried to do it in the Dark World a little bit, but they did a better job in Guardians of the Galaxy of making that just showing what the rest of the cosmic what the rest of the galaxy looks like and how far spread Thanos is his grip reaches. So that was interesting to see that aspect of it. And it was a pretty decent sci-fi flick. I wouldn't like necessarily call it a in terms of like Alien or something like that, but like it was for a Marvel movie, it was good. What I didn't like about it was the fact that it kind of set the pace for the we need to have a joke every 3 seconds in these Marvel films, and that kind of eventually bled into it didn't work so well in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, not my favorite movie, and then it kind of bled into Thor Ragnarok. Well, it was funny at first. I tried to watch it again. I just got a little annoyed at like just the joke, joke, joke. Like we can't follow a plot line. We're so stupid that we have to have a joke. We have to laugh every 3 seconds in order to know where the movie's going. So that aspect I wasn't a huge fan of, but no, it was a good it was good for what it intended to do, what they wanted it to do. It did that very well.
I believe so as well. And it is, like you said, one of our favorite films and is one of the best films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Something that for me totally came out of left field. And definitely, if it's something that left an indelible mark with us, but also, like you said, something that set the precedent for movies such as Thor Ragnarok, also as well Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but also Ant-Man. Don't forget Ant-Man. That one had a lot of one-liners as well. So, may it, for better or for worse, the success of Guardians of the Galaxy proved out that Marvel could go in a direction that was different and still create and craft an excellent movie, and also craft a movie that's very popular with characters that were really not known to the general audience.
Well, plus they got a ride out of it. So if it didn't do well with audiences, I don't imagine that they would theme an entire Disneyland ride after it. No, that was the for a lot of people I talked to who have like wanted to get their kids into Marvel movies. I know that was kind of the starting point for them was the Guardians of the Galaxy, just because it was funny, and that's what people go to see comic book movies for these days. No, it was good, and it clearly did well with people if if it garnered enough to not just have a sequel but have all that merch at Disneyland. So, and I know they're bringing all the comic books back. They're kind of revitalizing those a little bit, and they're actually introducing new members of the team, which are now going to start showing up in these the films I'm hearing. So hey, good for them. Good for them. It was it. Yes, it is. As far as like a vital piece of the MCU goes, it is pretty vital. We got to see the Kree, and those are I think they're being introduced now in Agents of Shield. I don't really care about that show anymore. There's too much Marvel everywhere. No, but like Thanos, we needed to see that. Like we, especially like if you see in the trailer for Infinity War, we saw how he had Gamora and he was kind of walking her through that crowd. We needed to see that. Like we needed these characters need to be connected, and we needed to see how Thanos is the rest of the galaxy fears him and what's going on with that. We needed to see all of that. So they did a good job of they didn't do it in like a Spider-Man way where there's too much going on. They did it the right way because they've had 20 movies now to tie all these stories together, but Guardians of the Galaxy was in my opinion the vital piece of the puzzle that we need. And if you remove that, then a lot of the stuff going on doesn't really make a lot of sense. You just see Thanos just floating in space by himself, going, "Oh, I'll take care of this myself." But Guardians of the Galaxy kind of, brought him to life.
That it did, and as you so represented just now, yes, it did indeed. But also, it's done well enough, like you said, to necessitate a sequel, and also another sequel with the Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3 or Volume 3 coming up in the future. Obviously, it's going to take place after the Infinity War Part 2 in 2019. So hopefully in 2020 or 2021, whatever is scheduled to release, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 will prove out to be just as good as the first movie in the series that Josh and I care about so very much, and realize that it's so important to the MCU. That's kind of that Josh and I care about so much, and that we both have come to the realization that its importance as a movie makes it really one of the biggest films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What are your thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy? Do you love it as much as we do? Do you not like it? Do you have it on the upper echelon or the lower echelon of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. So any last thoughts, my friend, on the way out?
No. No, I do, on one of these episodes coming up, I do want to talk to you about indie games. I'm playing Lost Sphere right now, and I kind of like it. It's not per se an indie game, but there's the capabilities of some of these indie makers are just pretty amazing. So we do need to talk about that.
We do, because it has evolved from the times, not only in around the 90s and the early 2000s, but when I first started going to E3s really on a year-by-year basis back around 2010, 2011, and I went to Indiecade and I saw the evolving of the games there, and as far as the looks, for a lot of them were still very crude, and has evolved with the technology and the ease in which you can get that technology to look a lot better now. So where you have indie games that look just as good, if not better, than a lot of AAA titles out there. That's for sure. So definitely look forward to talking to you about indie games in the near future as well. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.